Hi, I am Dr. Vasim Shaikh. In today's video, we will see how to publish an article in a journal. We will also see what is the importance of selecting the right journal. And we will also see what are the steps which are involved in the submission and the review process of a journal. So let us start. So the first step is you need to find the right journal. Finding the right journal is the key step in the publishing process. You also need to identify what type of article you need to publish. And for this purpose, I've made a video which is preceding this video where you can easily find out what type of articles are there, what types of research articles which you can publish. So you might think how to find the right journal. So let me give you some guidelines or some steps where you can see what type of journal will suit your work. So to start off, as I've discussed earlier, that you need to make a rough draft, and in that rough draft you might have included a lot of different references. So just scan through these references, and from those references you might find out different journal name, and you can visit those journals homepage, and maybe one of these journal will suit your work. So when you have shortlisted some journal, you need to go to the website of the journal. There the aim and the scope of the journals are listed, and you need to see whether your work is matching with the aim and the scope of the journal. Only then you can finalize that journal for the submission purpose. Also, you need to look into the author's guidelines. So the guidelines for the authors are given in the first page of the journal. There you can again find out whether they are accepting research article, data article, or whatever article they might be considering. So all these things you need to first of all look when you want to decide what type of journal you want to shortlist for your work. Some journals are by invitation only, so you can't submit your article just by yourself. Unless and until they invite you, you can't submit your article. So again, look for all these important guidelines in the website of the journal. Also, you need to look for the review of that particular journal. You need to find out what people are talking about that particular journal, and then you can shortlist that journal. One more important thing, you need to look at the publication timelines. This can be easily found out at the article of the journal. So when you scroll through the article, you might have seen that it has the timeline. That means when the article was submitted, when it was accepted, and when it was sent for revision, and finally when it was accepted again, and so on and so forth. So all these different timelines are given. You need to see these timelines. So maybe you want to publish your article in 6 months, you don't have too much time, so then you need to see these timelines. Maybe these journals, they don't accept the article, or maybe after 12 months they accept the articles, and that is a average timeline. So each and every journal, they have their average timeline. You need to go through this timeline and see, no, I want to publish an article in just 3 months, so I can't go for a journal which has an average timeline of 12 months. So based on that, you can select the right journal for your work. Some journals are open access journals. So what does that mean? That means anywhere you log into that journal, all the articles are open for you to see. You don't have to pay any money upfront for viewing those articles. But one catch is there in this, that whenever a journal is an open access journal, the authors, they have to pay some fees upfront when they want to publish their article. So it is that I am paying some money to the journal, and then the journal will keep the paper as an open access article, and that article can be viewed by anyone around the globe. So you need to keep these things in mind before submitting the journal. Sometimes you don't want to pay for what work you are doing, so in that case open access journal is not for you, because the moment you try to submit there, and then they'll reply after a month or so that this is an open access journal and you'll have to pay some money upfront, and then that 1 month will be wasted. So meanwhile, you have to keep these things in mind. If it is an open access journal, they'll ask for some money upfront, and you need to pay if you want to keep the article open for all to see. One more important thing is that you can only submit the article to one journal at a time, or else it is not ethical if you submit to more than one journal at a time. Also, you need to keep this thing in mind. So after you have finalized the journal, you need to make a final draft. So final draft will depend on the template which is given on the journal's website or the guidelines for the author. You can format your paper according to those guidelines, because each and every journal, they will have their own formatting style, they will have their own submission pattern, and so on. So you need to go to the author's guidelines. There you will find out what is the requirement in terms of text, in terms of fonts, in terms of what, how many columns they want, and these are the requirements. So you need to make your final draft based on the guidelines of the authors which is given on the website of the journal. After you have made the final draft, you need to submit your paper through the system which is there for each and every journal. So the moment you make the final draft, you need to look for any error in the paper or anything which you might feel that it is wrong. So one thing which we can do is we can go through the paper and see whether all the figures are there in proper place, whether the figures have been cited in the text, and so on. So all these things we should check again. One more important thing, before we submit the paper, we should get feedback from our colleagues and our advisors. So of course they are there. So once you finalize the paper, you make the final draft, you need to one more send it to them. That's an optional thing. You can send it to them and again get some feedback, and you are good to submit the paper. So one advice which I can give you is you can ask some of your friends who are not in your field to read the paper, because they will have a different perspective and they will give you some feedback, and based on those feedback again you can modify the paper. And most of the journals where you are submitting the paper, you need to write a cover letter, that what is the significance of the paper, what are the objectives of the paper, what is the uniqueness of your paper. All these things you need to draft in the cover letter. Sometimes the journals even ask for possible reviewers, so you need to give around 3 or 4 or 5 reviewers name which are some potential reviewers, and they can be in your same field in the area in which you are submitting the paper. So you can just google their name, or if you know someone who is good person in that particular field, he has a lot of experience, you can just suggest their name. So you need to give in all the details like name, affiliation, their email address, the phone number, and so on. So this is again a requirement. Most of the journal will ask for some potential reviewers. You need to give their names, and you may or may not know whether your paper went to them or no, because the review process may be a blind review process. We'll come to that, what are the different types of review process. So you may not know whether your paper went to that particular reviewer or no. You are just suggesting their name. Maybe the journal, they are keeping a database of the reviewer, so you send these names, they are keeping the name of these reviewer in their database. Now let us see what are the steps involved in the review process. So in general, the manuscript is sent to around 2 or 3 reviewers. The reviewer, they will go over the manuscript and they will point out what are the deficiency, they will give some suggestions, and they will try to tell you that you need to improve the content of the paper. Once the reviewer are done with their reviewing process, the comments comes back to the author. So basically what you can do is you can go through the comments, and sometimes it is possible that the reviewer has misunderstood some of your points, and then what you can probably do is you can add some additional research work, you can do some revision of the manuscript, and then you can again resubmit the manuscript. So that is how you want to improve upon the manuscript. And most of the time it happens that the reviewer, they misunderstand what you have written in the paper, and then you can provide some additional information in the revised manuscript so that they will understand your point and then accept your paper. Whenever a paper comes back to you after the review process, don't be disheartened if they have not accepted your paper. In fact, anything other than reject is a positive sign for your paper. So what are the possible conditions under which your paper have been received by you again from the reviewers? So the first case is the paper is accepted, and generally 95% of the time your paper will have to go through revision. Directly no one accepts your paper, and this is my experience. I have submitted papers to many journals. They will not accept in the first instance. They will always give you some revision, or they will reject your paper. So be rest assured that it will not be accepted in the first instance, and nobody will get acceptance in the first instance. Next is they will accept the manuscript, but they will give you some revision. The revisions can be minor or they can be some major revisions, and after you do these revision, you again resubmit the manuscript to the journal. So the third case is they will ask you to revise and resubmit. So remember, revise means they have not accepted your manuscript. They want you to do some revision, and again based on those revision they will see whether they want to accept or reject the manuscript. So that is the meaning of revise and resubmit. Then again one more option is that they might be rejecting your manuscript and they'll tell you to resubmit. So it is same as revise and resubmit, but here they have made that decision that they have rejected the manuscript. So next time you need to do a major revision. You need to do a major revision and then you need to answer all these questions, and again then you need to resubmit it to the manuscript. So these are the possible scenarios which you can undergo when you submit a manuscript. And the last one is flatly they will reject your paper, and then what you can do about that is you need to resubmit your manuscript to a new journal. After the review is done and you receive your manuscript from the reviewers, and they have given you a lot of comments for revision and so on, so you should not blame the reviewer for their misunderstanding. You need to write comments to the reviewer. So each and every comment which is given by the reviewer, you need to answer these comments, and in these comments you need to be very polite and respectful, and you need to tell them what is your point of view and what they might have misunderstood. But here again the important thing is you need to be very polite and you need to address each and every point. So maybe they have given around 15 to 20 points that you need to improve this, you need to do that. Each and every point you need to be logical, you need to answer very politely, respectfully. Sometimes it is possible that you can't do the experiment again, so you need to tell them I can't do these experiments again and so on, so they will understand that. As I said, you need to explain point by point in your response to the reviewer's comment. Then you need to carefully draft it and you need to put very accurately your point to them, and then revise the manuscript and resubmit the revised version. What are the types of peer review process? So there are three types of peer review process. The first one is single blind. That means that the reviewers know the author, the reviewers know the names of the author, but the author don't know who are the reviewer. Second is double blind. Double blind means the author, they don't know who are the reviewers, the reviewer, they don't know who are the author. Then the third one is the open review, where everyone knows everyone, even the authors know who are the reviewers know who are the authors. Even after revising the manuscript, doing a lot of experimentation and resubmitting and waiting for months, your paper might be rejected. So don't get disheartened, don't panic, always be positive, because overwhelming amount of manuscript are rejected at the first instance. So remember, the key thing is that for a lot of publication you need to have lot of rejections, because the moment your manuscript is rejected, you understand the point of view of the reviewers, that what the reviewers want, and the comment which you get from the reviewers, those have to be taken very carefully, looked into very carefully, and the next manuscript which you are submitting, you need to keep in mind that what are the perspective of the reviewer. So as I said, only 5 to 10% of the articles are accepted at first instance. Most of the articles are rejected or they are given for revision. The key here is whether you are invited to revise the paper. The moment you see the word revise in the email from the editor, you should be very happy that they have not rejected your article, they are still accepting it, and you can revise and resubmit your article. And one of the most important reason for rejection is the submission of the manuscript in the wrong journal. That is the most important point you need to remember. That is why selecting the right journal is the first and the most crucial step in submitting a manuscript. And what will happen if you select a wrong journal? You will waste most of the time, because most of the time the editor, they will respond to you in a month or so. So you will waste a month when you submit the manuscript to the wrong journal, and you will waste that 1 month. So you need to work upon to select the right journal for your work. What to do if your paper still gets rejected? I'll discuss some points that you can keep in mind even if your paper is rejected. Do not get discouraged. Read the editor's comments and then discuss with your how you can improve the paper. Find out different ways how you can make your paper stronger and acceptable for publication. Do not just turn around and send the paper to a different journal. You need to look into the comments very carefully, because if you look into those comments and improve your paper, your chances of acceptance in the next journal increases tremendously. You can carry out some additional experiments to make your paper more stronger. You can include all these results and discussion, and then you can improve the quality of the manuscript. When you are resubmitting your manuscript to the same journal, the thing which you can keep in mind is that whether or not you have adequately addressed the reviewer's comment. And if you have some doubt, if you have not understood anything, you can of course email to the editors and they'll explain or give an explanation to what your queries are, and generally they will definitely answer in a couple of days for all your queries. Do not put off the revision and do not procrastinate, do not delay. Once you get the reviewer's comment, try to improve your manuscript so that you can resubmit it again. So you can only decide what amount of revision can be done and what amount of revision is not possible for you to do. So you can, based on that, you can reply to the reviewer's comment that these revisions are not possible. Whatever was under my control, I did that and I've revised the manuscript based on all your comments. To do even better, what you can do is you can improve the language of your manuscript. So you need to work more on the English grammar of your manuscript, and that will improve the quality of your manuscript. Also, again when you're revising the manuscript, please send it to a colleague so that they can give their feedback and comment before directly sending it to the journal. Most of the time what happens is badly written paper are, most of the time they are rejected. Let us summarize what we have studied today. So we have seen that the most important thing for publication purpose is that you need to find out the right journal. Then based on that journal, you need to finalize and make the final draft based on the font, based on the size, based on how the paper should look like. You should edit it according to the author's guidelines. Then you have to submit the paper. It goes through the review process. It again comes back to you for either revision, or they might just flatly refuse your paper and reject your paper. And anything other than rejection is a good sign. You revise the paper, improve the quality of the paper, and then again resubmit, and hopefully your paper will get accepted. So I hope by watching this video you understood the actual process of publishing a paper in a journal, and this will help you to improve the quality of your paper, and you should know what are the steps involved in the review process and publication. So thanks for watching. All the best.